It's a conversation. And just like any of these episodes, Shelley, I have a platform to be able to interview interesting people like you, interesting people that do what most people don't do. That is you, Shelley Williams. Welcome to the podcast, by the way.
Thank you, Bart.
That's the purpose of the call. I have access to a friend like you that is, in my mind, a remarkable human being, and I want other people to learn about what has allowed you, what has enabled you to become the person that you are. Our listeners will then learn some things from you just based on these questions. And then the last component is I want individuals to love you, to respect who Shelley Williams is. And then naturally, we're going to talk about what you do from a business lens. And that's how the flow is. How does that sound?
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for the reassurance.
you're welcome. All right. So, Shelley Williams, I have known you for several years in your previous role also. You have essentially grown up in the world of hospitality. You have done a lot of different things, and I will just briefly touch upon your background, and then we're going to talk about you as a person. Canadian chair for MPI, director of resort and hotel sales for Caesars Windsor, regional director of sales for Westmont Hospitality Group, national director of sales for Caesars, Hard Rock Hotels vice president of sales, Hard Rock International director of global sales, and now vice president of sales for F1 Arcade, which we will get to last. But the question, did you always know that you wanted to be in this service to others industry?
And that's a great question. I always loved to serve. And before all of those professional hospitality roles, it was always in the facilities and the leadership opportunities. So I think it really made me want to serve people in a way in which I could provide the individuality. I went to school for international business, and so it wasn't the traditional hospitality school. And my first job was in extrusion plastics, so with farmers that had nothing to do with hospitality. And but you have this natural ability that's innate in you to want to help people and do the right thing. I wanted to be a diplomat and Canadian diplomat traveling the world. So I did have the travel bug, that is for sure. And I
Mm-hmm.
lived overseas, so I knew what hospitality was. But it didn't draw to me as a career. I didn't think that was a career back then. And so I fell into it as I moved back to Canada.
This giving of others, the giving to others and helping others, where do you think that came from? What influenced that behavior in you?
Yeah, my grandmother, for sure. She was always that person in my life that was always teaching, helping, and learning. And I think that was natural for me to say, I want to emulate that. I want to be like that person. And that person is the person that today, unfortunately, she's not with us. But when I need to think, am I doing the right thing? I remember my grandmother, and she is that guiding light to me.
And was it more of your grandmother's influence than your parents' influence?
I think you always get that transpassed or bypassed through, but I would tell you that I would see it probably most from my grandmother because they were my disciplinarians and she wasn't.
Trying to do the right thing, trying to be kind toward others, studying international business, which makes sense because you were one of the smartest people that I know, and you know a little bit about everything. How did you end up falling into the world of hospitality then?
I started to teach English at Berlitz International, and then I started organizing meetings, and then I started to get into sales and then become a corporate meeting planner. So on that side of the business, I understood what we needed to do in this interesting role of hospitality. When I moved back to Canada, I got into the supply side of the business per se. And the question I remember the hiring manager asked me, he goes, do you know what it's like to be on the other side of the desk? And normally people would say that from the other side of the desk. Do you know what it's like to be a client? And in this case, he actually flipped it on me. He goes, do you know how it is to run a business? And from a client's perspective, and I said, well, I have the international business background. So let's move international business to hospitality. And that's how I got into the hospitality side and came up through the ranks. I never actually did the sales manager work. It was always more on the strategic vision of the business. because that's where I think my talents lie is understanding how we're going to move this forward and why we're going to move this forward and with whom we're going to be able to move that forward with. And so understanding the personas of our clients and the people that are around us are probably the things that, I was able to see through the vision that I had.
And were you always thinking along those lines? Go back to middle school or elementary school, high school. Were you always thinking along those lines of how we're going to move business? Because that's one thing that I know you are personally phenomenal at doing. You're able to get the right people together, moving in the right direction, and you're explaining why we want to move in this direction. Were you always like that?
Yeah, I think I was. When I look back, I
Yeah.
was the person in the drama program that was trying to sell the tickets. Yeah.
What a lovely characteristic, Shelley.
Thank you.
And that probably did not come from, because I always like to get to the heart and soul of people on this call. Probably didn't come from your grandmother. We know that the kindness came from your grandmother and caring and doing the right thing. The element of putting things together and moving things forward. Did you have any early influencers as to who helped you use that talent and see that vision?
I think always being involved in group activities and being very social always helps in that direction. My mom put me in everything, whether that was a babysitting opportunity for her or not necessarily sure, but I was in every type of group activity there was, every intramural. I wasn't necessarily as competitive, so I just wanted everybody to win. And so all of the major competitive sports was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But it wasn't something that was really my jam. My jam was always making sure that everybody was included.
Included, and also there will usually be a line or two that comes as a result of this conversation. And what I'm hearing that just hit my head very quickly was wanting everyone to win,
Yeah, I
right?
want everybody to win. Yes.
You as a leader, you want everyone to win, which is so unusual, Shelley, for a leader of people to want everyone to win. You
I
realize
think
that
we all win if everybody wins.
yeah. Have you always had that approach?
I think so. I think that fundamentally, that's where I get my strength, my intuition. It comes from a deep place, I would say for me, is
Mhm.
making sure you're always doing the right thing for the right people at the right time.
But that's so easy to say. Who cares? Shelley, who
I care.
cares?
I
Yeah,
care
but why do you care, Shelley?
because
Why?
I'll tell you, for me, it's really been able to advance me personally and satisfy me
So it's
personally.
a selfish reason is why you're helping people and you want everyone to win. It's selfish.
Sure. I want to be selfish helping people. Of course I
No,
do.
it's not. It is totally not selfish. No, right. I'm pushing a little bit just to understand a little bit more. You are learning. It goes back to everyone winning. It goes back to doing the right thing and elevating people together. You push yourself a lot, Shelley Williams. You are one of the hardest working people that I know. What is driving you? Why are you working so hard?
Yeah, I get up in the morning to do better. I want to beat myself. I want to win too, right? So I want to say, what did you do yesterday and what can you do better today? Whether it's making sure you called somebody, checking in on somebody, giving the tools and support to someone. It's important to me to say, I improve myself by doing something for someone else? And that's in professional and in personal life, I think
Yeah,
is really important.
and I know that about you, that you are waking up every single day trying to get better, do better. And I'm using this and it just begins to roll off my tongue, right? Do better, get better, feel better, help others do better. All of these things. Very altruistic.
Yeah, I would say so. It's not
Yeah.
motivated by the number, the money, the success. A lot of people would tell me that you're a hard cookie. It's hard to get through to Shelly. I'm like, really? I'm really sensitive. And it's because I have a lot of drive and ambition and
Mhm.
take no prisoners per se. Look at the blind sides that I think are really important. There was always people in my life that I knew could do more, but never had anybody per se drive them, right? That's what the blind side is when you think about it in a team concept or a team sport. When you think about your right tackle or your left tackle in a football game, it's not about necessarily your quarterback, it's about the blind sides and making sure you're protecting the right people, moving them forward and advancing in however way they were. And for me, there's always people in my peripheral that are making me drive for them per se.
And are you also driving them? They're
Yeah, I
making
would
you
say, yeah, because I'm such a powerhouse in some of the things that I do, it's like the power innately drives them forward at the same
Mhm,
time.
mhm.
Reluctantly sometimes, I'll tell you. And sometimes that's a scary place for some people, but I'd like to take them under my wing and don't worry, ask the right questions, we'll get there together. And I think
Yes.
those are important leadership traits.
Okay, and very unique that you're a driver, but you're an empathetic driver.
Yes.
How else would you describe your leadership style?
I'm a visionary in a lot of ways. I'm a creative visionary. I am process oriented. I want to make sure that what I'm suggesting to somebody, I have processed through the strategy enough to say there's a good opportunity for here for this to work. Not just throwing a pie in the sky, blue sky ideas out there and waiting to see if anybody catches them and adds on to them. Most of the times when I'm doing a lot of suggestions, I'm 60% knowing that this is a good idea. I've researched it enough. I've done my homework to be able to have the trust and the belief of the people around me to be able to say, okay, I'm going to jump on that idea. Come on under my wing. Let's go. And so that maybe allows them to feel a little bit safer, right? To
Mhm.
be able to take the drive or take the path or take the journey, however way they're doing, and go in the direction in which we're leading them in.
Where do you find the time? You're being bombarded by a lot of different stakeholders, a global sales team, a new concept, ownership, a lot of different things are coming at you. Where do you find the time to be a visionary?
I think I absorb a lot through a lot of conversations. I think there's a lot of absorption, and it comes through a lot of different conversations where you're jotting down or recollecting, and listening is really important. I am a talker. A lot of people know that I am a talker in the room, and I will offer my opinions. But when I'm not doing that, I'm very much actively listening to what is actually going on and being observant to the people that are a little bit more pensive to the idea. And I think that's an important thing to do. So over the day or over the time that I'm collecting my thoughts, I will stop and say, okay, I've got a lot of thoughts. Hold on, I need to put them down.
Uh,
And thanks to the new AI and thanks to a lot of new technologies, I can easily now craft a couple briefs, a couple ideas, and say, okay, I'll just store that for right now. It's not ready. Let's move it on this one. Let's prioritize this one and strategically work through some
uh,
methodology.
Okay, so this is what I'm learning so far. And I think it's a difficult balance that you have been able to achieve, Shelley. And I want to make sure that our listeners are learning something about what they perhaps could do. So I'm learning that you are a driver. I have seen you get things done. You also are finding time to be a visionary by listening, by taking things in. You are paying attention to the peripheral. Am I saying it right? I always get
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
the blind sides of what else needs to happen and who else needs to get involved to be able to drive things forward. All of those things. And when I first met you, I'm like, this is a powerful person. This is a disciplined person. This is a person that has her own opinions. I wasn't sure how we would be able to interact. But then one of the second calls that we were on, you picked up a phone call afterwards and you said, hey, I just want to make sure you are okay with what we just talked about. And all of a sudden, Shelly, that was an onion layer that was peeled to reveal yes, she's a driver. Yes, she's opinionated, but she cares. She cares deeply. She thinks forward. She includes others. And she's always trying to do the right thing. That is an incredible combination of skills and characteristics and traits, Shelley. I just want to thank you for being that type of person. It is unusual. It is so unusual. So, what can our listeners learn? How could they, if they're leaders on this call, what are a couple of things that you have learned based on how I just described you? What could they learn to begin to think about differently as they grow their leadership skills and become better every single day?
Yeah, I think it's to be deliberate and by understanding what they actually want of where they're going. And it took me some time to do that. And I think we can go down that conversation. You're always on a journey and a path to get to a place that you feel that is your goal, your strategy, your drive, and this is your personal kind of idea. And you really have to think through all of those things to ensure that they're aligned and making sure that they're right with your person and it's your own brand, right? So what is your brand and how are you best lifting your brand in all opportunities? And I think there's some times where you have to look yourself hard in the mirror and say, are you doing the right thing for your true self? Are you
Mhm.
actually helping people or are you hurting people by not being honest with yourself?
Wow.
And I think that was a break for me in a lot of ways to say, I can be better. And I always want to wake up being better. It's just,
Mhm.
when did you have enough courage to be able to make it better, really, instead of just convincing yourself that you're doing it?
Brilliant. And I need to rewind what you just said because it's giving me goosebumps. Thank you. To get to the place where you want to be, you're waking up trying to improve yourself and you're moving to the place where you want to be and where you need to be. Where is that place, Shelley, for you? Describe that place. And are you there?
Oh, not yet. No, I'm not there. I wish
Ah,
I was, but that drive is still in me and it's still fiery and it's passionate. I'm still picking up pieces around along the way in my journey, obviously, to get to that end goal. And there's been some people that have been able to be within my journey or have been with me in this journey. And I've seen done some amazing things. And
mhm.
I would tell you, I'm just taking count of those. It's not, I'm never going to arrive per se. I'm just taking count and saying, I'm glad you got there. It makes me feel good that you got there. And so I'm done when I feel like I've done enough and I've taken count about the people that I brought under my wing and they've got there. I think that's for me what's important. And not only have they got there personally, but they feel that they are getting there as well
Yes.
in their
Yes.
journey.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, the question about the getting there. Is the getting there professionally? Is the getting there personally? Is the getting there both? When you were saying getting there, right?
Yeah, I
Our
think it's
place.
both.
Okay.
I think it is both. I think, are you in a place that you feel valued personally,
Profession. Okay. Personally and
professionally,
professionally. Got it. Yes.
that you feel
Okay.
valued for the traits, the talents, the personality that you are, the way
Mhm.
that you can help, and what you actually bring to the table or that you've earned to bring to the table. And I think
Okay.
that's when you know you've arrived. You've
Yeah.
arrived when you
Yeah.
feel the calm around, these people actually value me for
Yeah.
what I bring to the table.
I want to throw a little wrench in there, Shelley. Does it freaking matter what they think that, oh, yeah, Shelley, I believe Shelley brought value. I believe Shelley is the right person. I believe Shelley is a kind person. Does it matter, Shelley, what they believe?
No, it
Right?
matters what you believe that they believe.
Yes. Or what you believe.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
Shelley,
100%.
you are a kind person today. You're one of the kindest people that I know. That's it. There should be no other proving needed until you get there. And I'm just saying this as a friend. You are there. You are a kind person. You are an authentic person. You are a strategic person. You are a visionary person. You're a person that does the right thing for the right reasons. That is you. You are there. And I just want to make sure that we all take peace with that
Mhm.
and give yourself a break. Pat yourself on the back. I am here. You are where you need to be. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get better tomorrow, but without that outside validation, and you know this, but I just want to make sure that I'm complimenting my friends well enough to say, you are already there. Someone had to give me a major wake up call a few years ago. And she said to me, Bart, do you realize you're already doing it? I was like, what? You are already sharing good messages around the world. Wow. You already have a podcast. Right. You are traveling with your wife together, finding happiness and gratitude. Right. Like I had sometimes you have to hear from others that
Mhm.
you are already doing it. You're already there. And
Yeah, the affirmation is important, and but I think those people that don't practice affirmation have a harder
mhm,
time getting there. I'm very aware of what I look like in the mirror, whether you like it or not, but you that's what you look like in the mirror. And what your exterior is an
mhm,
important interior view of what you are, right?
yeah,
And so I want to make sure that's aligned and I want to make sure that feels comfortable. And I feel very comfortable about that milestone, whatever that milestone is today and the next one that I set, that you're
mhm.
comfortable in what that milestone was.
Fantastic. Yeah, the drive is unusual. You could be ready to retire. You could be ready to move and buy your own Caribbean island, but you still have that drive to help people to move things forward and make things happen. And as I say, drive, that's intentional. Shelley, you've done some amazing things in the world of hospitality, and I'm very excited for your new role as Vice President of Sales for F1 Arcade. It is a new company, it is a growing company. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about the concept? And then I want to get to how we can help you and your team grow the business because I think it's unusual. So, step one, they're learning about Shelley Williams as a person. And if she is representing herself as a personal brand and aligning herself the F1 Arcade brand, we know that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So already there's this check mark of accreditation, like it's approved. Can you tell us again about F1 Arcade and
Yeah.
what you're doing and where you're going?
Yeah, no, I'm, you know what, I am humbled and excited about what I've joined, and amazing culture. So F1 Arcade is a new startup concept. We're in partnership with Formula One Racing and Liberty Media and some other investors that we had, and they developed this concept in the United Kingdom, in UK, and it's a unique high energy experience that brings adrenaline, team building experiences to groups. You can do it as a social with your friends. You can go dating. You can do all kinds of things. You jump in a simulator. You drive fast around the F1 tracks around the world. You have unbelievable environments to really share this in, very high end, very high class, mimicking a little bit around what that F Formula One experience is if you're going to a Grand Prix. There's a lot of aspiration around this really unique concept. And you basically have wonderful food, caviar if you'd like it, champagne if you want it, all in this really kind of unique place that you could go on the weekend. So it's a new concept around competitive socializing. From UK, we call competitive socializing. In the US, you would say team building, but for corporate groups. And so we do know that Formula One is one of the fastest growing sports in America. And so one of the major initiatives that we had is to grow the sports fan base within the United States. Similar to what you've seen in the MLS, similar to what you've seen in pickleball. Here, all of a sudden, now you have Formula One racing, and what's really interesting is the amount of women that are taking this sport. They can get in stilettos and snazzy jackets and drive like the best of you. And it's interesting how we use our skills. So it's been a great ride understanding this concept. And we're excited. We have one in Boston, Washington. We're opening in Philly, Denver, Las Vegas, and Atlanta this year. And then obviously within 5 years, we'll be about 30 different venues across America.
Wow. You had shared with me the founder or one of the originators had started a couple of other team building venues, correct? Can you share those?
Yeah, our founder, Adam Breeden, he's the pioneer for competitive socializing. A unique vision, leader himself, has really brought forward a lot of these concepts. Some of them made it to the United States, some of them haven't. So it seems like this whole competitive socializing concept is incubating over in the UK market and then eventually brought across the pond to see how it works in obviously the larger markets. But was involved in Flight Club, Putt Shack, and some of the earlier concepts around competitive socializing and really how people socialize differently around different food and beverage options where Gen X isn't necessarily going out and drinking. They need
Mhm.
to have innovation and they need to be engaged differently when they go out. It's not a passive opportunity now, it's much more of an engaged opportunity. And so you'll see a lot of our food and beverage concepts engaging those customers differently to create different and unique experiences.
It's something to do, not a place to go, but it's something to do. And what are the studies, Shelley, sharing with regard to the need for this competitive socializing? Are there any studies that show the importance? And the reason why I ask this, and you could add on to this, there's different things that I've read about communities. And think years and years ago, if I'm thinking back to my grandparents, when we went to their house, we stayed on their front porch and we talked. And there wasn't music, but we talked on the front porch because it was cooler because they didn't have air conditioning inside. And then as my parents evolved, they got air conditioning and we got a television. So we went to the living room. So front porch living to living room living. And now there's this bedroom living because people have their phones and they can watch TV and play games on their phones. So it's this lack of community that I have been seeing. Are studies like that helping based on F1 arcade and the things that you're doing?
Yes, I think there's plenty of studies, and I don't want to quote them here, but I do want to refer to where we are in multi-generational pieces, right? And so the icebreaker term, right,
Mhm.
very much necessary when people were gathering back in the 80s and the 90s and somewhat into the 2000s, right? We all played icebreakers and organized around let's get everybody to understand who they are, right? The term networking was also another kind of more passive term that is in our worlds, especially in hospitality. And then we think about the multi generations that we are in today, and we look back into hospitality and say, is it the same? And so, in many times when we think about icebreakers and we think about networking and we think about the multi generations we're dealing with today, they don't do it the same. They are very much more technologically savvy. This is actually an extension of their own wrist.
Sure.
Putting it down is a scary feeling for them. They need to be able to sit to go into a room and feel comfortable with the surrounding itself, not only who they're going to meet. Do you give me a badge? Are you identifying me? How you're identifying me? So the concepts go so deep into a lot of the research where it basically says, don't talk to me and ask me questions that are evasive, or I have to tell you things I'm not ready to share yet. So in a place like F1 Arcade, we create a really unique energy and a vibe to allow that thing to happen naturally within a corporate group. So you
Wow.
can get on a simulator and drive fast, you can show your skills fast, and then when you're ready, you can network with your group. And so I think it's
Fantastic.
a really interesting way to combine that for multi generational opportunities.
Shelley, it is the smartest thing. So F1 being extremely popular in the world, now growing in the US makes sense. Two, to dive deep into this competitive socializing based on what generational groups need. Three, the element of community and inclusion. Four, thinking about so many different companies where individuals or organizations don't have the opportunity to be in the same room. Now you are creating a place, a safe place, a fun place where people can have fun and I guess network as they wish and network on their own to be comfortable. Again, it's such a brilliant idea. Oh, there was one other thing that when I initially called and learned a little bit more about F1 Arcade, I said the thing that I liked about it is that you don't necessarily need to be physically skilled at rolling a bowling ball or swinging a ping pong paddle or using a golf club. As long as you can steer and use your feet to work the pedals, you should be able to participate. Because there's been bowling things. If I had a bad shoulder and a bad neck, I can't roll a ball, even if it's 3 pounds. I just can't. But can I sit in a simulator and have fun? Yes, I can. So
Yes,
I
and
just,
you don't even need to use your feet. We've got paddles for you too.
oh, amazing. It's just such a brilliant idea. Shelley, two last questions, and I will reference F1 Arcade, f1arcade.com, correct, for more
Correct,
information? Yes.
correct.
Shelley Williams, very active on LinkedIn, Shelley Williams, Williams. You can find her vice president of sales with F1 Arcade. How can our listeners help you? Is the next to the last question. How can our listeners, this goes out to a lot of different people, top 2 to 5% podcasts in the world. How can they assist F1 Arcade in what you were doing as a leader?
Yeah, thank you for that question because obviously we all need help and I'm wanting to help. So I will always encourage that help. We need people to understand that competitive socializing is a thing and not just put our groups in those same mundane scenarios and situations where the meeting planners are deciding to create a networking event that is not inclusive, right? There's a sense of belong as well that we need to consider when we're thinking about creating these events for incentives or offsites or cultural. It's make sure that your audience is included and they belong where you place them. And for me, that's the reason why I joined F1 Arcade. I think the concept is a fantastic concept to really hone in on some of the winning opportunities that you may have from a corporate culture, right? So there's so many different intersects of it's not the driver that wins, it's actually the team. It's not about the first lap, it's really about the last lap. And there's so many different ways that competitive socializing intersects with corporate culture in this new modern way of intergener or multi-generational workplace. And so I'd ask for everyone to take a look at this concept, take a look at F1 Arcade, come out and have some fun. That's the most important part. And we'll be in cities very soon, in all of the cities across the country. So if you see us, come and say hi. More importantly, I'd love to meet you.
Oh, fantastic. Shelley, the words that you're using, it relates to the first part of this conversation. You are all about winning. F1 Arcade is about creating winning environments. From a personal perspective from your grandmother, you are all about being kind and doing the right thing, making people feel good. F1 Arcade is about being kind and making people feel good and including them. So all of these similarities, you are now at the place where you need to be right now in your life, which is just so cool. I didn't realize how many similarities there would be with regard to your brief summary of your life story to now what you are doing. But boy, it makes perfect sense. That's the visionary part of you as well. You are already thinking about it's not just a place to ride in video games and play video games. It is competitive socializing, which will include people and make them feel good about being with each other and winning together. That's the line right there. Amazing, Shelley Williams.
Thank
Last
you.
question, I promise. Most people don't blank. Fill in the blank.
Most people don't think of others first.
Outstanding. And you certainly do. You do what most people don't, Shelley.
Thank you.
Thank you for including me on your journey, including our listeners on our journey, and doing some remarkable things, not just in the industry, but to help people overall. You are an exceptional person, Shelley. I'm proud to
Thank
know
you,
you.
Bart. Can I give you a couple props
Yeah,
myself?
of course. Yes, we're still
Because
recording.
most
We're
people
allowed.
don't think about other people first, and I
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
And Bart, I'll tell you, was one of the most exceptional trainers that I have come and incurred across my whole professional career. I will tell you that you have a personality that makes people remember, think, be deliberate, be intentional about how they want to change who they are as people. So you are a long-lasting love of my life in many ways. And I do call you on Valentine's Day, so I will say that. But the way you deliver the topics, the content, and the practical way of its delivery is very impactful. And I will tell this not just from me personally, but from the people that you've trained for us. They still remember words that have come out of your mouth and they repeat them back to us. And
Hmm.
so thank you so much for that. And so I want to make sure that everybody on this podcast realizes that if you're looking for sales training, if you're looking for motivation, if you're looking for the message of most people don't, it's Bart Berkey for sure.
You are amazing to share that. Thank you. I would never ask for that in this format, but thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank
And as you say that, Shelley, it just makes me, again, being very proud and happy inside about this is, I believe, the place that I need to be
yeah,
in
it
my
is
life.
exactly where you need to be.
So we both are
Exactly.
where we need to be. And we're going
I get to wear
and we're
sparkly
there
jackets. I can't wait for you to get one.
and we're there together. 2XL, don't forget.
I know.
All right. You're the best, Shelley. Thank you again.
you.
Thanks to our listeners. Shelley Williams, Vice President of Sales, F1 Arcade. Follow and help this outstanding young lady as much as you can. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Bye-bye.
For those of you that might be new to the podcast, my name is Bart Berkey. I am the founder of Most People Don't. It's a company that is designed to help people get better, to help people to be inspired to do more, to achieve more based on taking action. During my 16 years with Ritz-Carlton and 30 years plus in hospitality, I gained a unique perspective on how the element of service can inspire intentional, above and beyond actions. Not only do we have a podcast, I travel around the globe with keynote messages in addition to sales and service training. If you are a group or organization that is in need of some motivation or an inspirational message, please reach out to us through our website, which is mostpeopledon't.com. Most importantly, thank you for doing what most people don't.